Are you looking for an escape from manufactured truth wrapped in selfish agenda? Don't you just want to have a real and raw conversation, all masks and rules aside? That's what you're getting here at Titan Evolution Podcast. Get rid of all the nonsense information and discuss everything under the sun without filters. Listen to real stories of real people who will put your current perspectives to the test, guide you on living the life you truly want, and see everything free from judgment and pretenses. Time to get rid of those unhealthy environments and let your authentic self shine. Here are your hosts, Travis Johnson and Carol Carpenter.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the show. I'm Carol Carpenter, and that down there, not looking at the camera, is Travis Johnson, my co-host. We have a special guest here today, and his name is Matthew Currin. And Matthew is a retired Marine Corps helicopter pilot, if I can spit that out, and a former EMS helo pilot as well, and is currently the Team Penske NASCAR pilot. Really interested in that. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, coming up. Matthew is a speaker, trainer, life coach, and founder of Convene Communities. Welcome, Matthew.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate y'all having me. It's great.
Been looking forward to this because I saw that NASCAR thing and I'm like, I want to know.
Yeah. Oh, you want to know, gosh. My history's pretty deep. Yeah. So I do fly the helicopter for Team Penske NASCAR and Indy. So it's probably one of the best jobs on the face of the earth. My job is to fly the owner in and out of the tracks, the other executives in and out of the tracks. I get to drive, fly around the some of the drivers in and out of the tracks and to PR events and all that. So like I said, I was an air medical pilot, right place, right time. And somebody said, Team Penske's looking for a pilot. Would you be interested? And I'm like, yeah. For sure. There's no doubt. And so, so I've been doing that since April of 2017. But, I had a little bit of a thing called COVID that hit and I got a phone call that said, hey, we're going to sell the helicopter. Oh, what am I going to do? Yeah. So I was actually in the middle of going back to fly air medical again and got the phone call that said, hey, we're going to possibly keep the helicopter, but what we want to do is train you on a Gulfstream 280. So now I'm also a jet pilot where I fly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Freaking awesome.
So we fly around fly Roger Penske around a lot, fly other executives in support of Penske Automotive Group, Penske Trucking, all those, trucks, moving trucks you see going down the road. I work for the man, and fly a lot of people around. So it's awesome. Yeah. So, and we're still flying the helicopter quite a bit. In fact, I'll take off here at the end of next month and do my 5th Indy 500. Which is really cool because I get to stand down in the pits while the race is going on and all that. So a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, you talk about racetracks and that's what we do with motorcycles. So when the minute I heard NASCAR, I'm like, oh, it's got to be racetrack involved. So I gotta know.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, it's fun. It's right place at the right time. Penske Corp, Roger Penske is probably one of the most amazing men. I'm lucky enough to get to, interact with him and just watch him, and just such an awesome person, an awesome job to have. So, yeah, lucky.
So cool. Super cool. And you say lucky, but the truth is, I think you were in exactly the right place at the right time.
Well, you are right. And I do believe that, God has a way to guide us and put us where we need to be. And, I also know that I worked pretty hard to raise myself, up in my work as a pilot to where when it came out that Team Penske was looking for a pilot, my name was getting thrown out to them. So that was a great thing. So again, right place, right time, and walked into a good job. So one of their 6 right now. There's 3 helicopters that are in NASCAR, and I'm one of the pilots on 3 of them. So I'm actually the lead helicopter pilot for Penske now. And so there's only, there's 2 handfuls of NASCAR helicopter pilots or less that get to do the job. So it's pretty small select few there. So that's cool.
Yeah,
awesome.
That's wonderful. You said you were a pilot in the Marine Corps, and obviously you've kept your qualifications and did a good enough job to get picked up by Penske. Like we know that's like the fruit of your story, but we want to really
Sure.
get down to the root of who you are. So I got to ask you, what are the qualities that make you a Titan?
Yeah. Well, let's go back. If I'm really going to dive in and tell you the story, right? Let's go way back and go back to when I was a young kid. I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina. Have three older brothers, or two older brothers, excuse me. I'm the youngest of three. And my older brothers were incredible athletes. We come from a very athletic family, football, baseball, basketball, but mostly once we got older, it was football to baseball. And I got tired of following in my brother's footsteps. And so it was, after my freshman year of high school, I was like, yep, I'm going to go out and go on my own. And so I transferred into another school. I can actually remember the conversation. I walked up to the coach, and it was Coach Trevathan, and I looked at him, and I guess what I'm getting at, I was a pretty cocky kid. This is the story. I walked up to him and I said, "Hey, Coach Trevathan, I'm Matt Currin," and he goes, "Oh, you're a Currin," and I was like, because I knew my brothers, and I was like, "Yes," and I said I just transferred in, and he knew I had transferred in because word had gotten to him, and he goes, "All right," he goes, "We're looking forward to seeing what you can do," and I said, "Coach, I'm gonna play varsity football for you." And he goes, "We'll see. You got to prove it." And I said, "But I got one issue." I said, "We're getting ready to play in the state championship for baseball, and that might take me to the Southeast Regional." And he goes, "Well, then you won't be playing varsity football for me." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So what ended up happening is we lost. We lost the state championship to an incredible team. And yeah, I was one of two sophomores that played varsity football. I ended up starting at defensive back the whole year there. And then I was one of one sophomores that played varsity baseball. And so here's where my story really, really kind of gets going is we played a game. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I went out and had a great game. I was 3 for 4. I remember it just like yesterday because of what happened. I was 3 for 4 and had a good game in center field. I played center field at the time. Went out that. So who are my friends? My friends were all junior seniors, mostly the seniors, it kind of taken me under their wing. Well, what do high school kids do? Go out and drink. Stupid things.
Yeah.
Well, went out and drink. I remember getting some alcohol. I remember taking, turned it up, Jim Beam. And that's about the last thing I remember. That's the first time I ever put alcohol. First time I ever drank alcohol as a sophomore. I was 16. Woke up the next day in the hospital. And tubes coming out of your nose, your mouth, your, IVs, heart monitor on you. That's kind of a rough way to wake up as a 15, 16-year-old kid. I think it was 15 actually still at the time. And it was brutal, and so if you go forward from there, that wasn't the bad part. That wasn't the bad part. I recovered from that. But what was going on is we had this little fraternity thing in our high school, and they had an event the next 2 weeks later, and it happened to another guy, a guy named James. And they would look at James in one breath, and they'd say, "James, we're sorry about what just happened to you." They'd look at me and they would say, "Otis, you're a drunk." And they would call me Otis because of Andy Griffith, the town drunk, and Andy Griffith. And that at that school became my nickname is Otis, and it stuck. And so as a 15-year-old kid, cocky kid, it really got confusing and frustrating for me. It's like, well, why are they coming at me so hard? But then in the same breath, they'll tell James that they're sorry that happened to him. And it was the same group of people. And so fundamentally, it changed who I was as a person because I didn't like it. I didn't like, guys can be brutal. Girls can be brutal. We can talk more about that stuff later, but guys, people can be brutal. And, it was frustrating to me. It was my first time that I had been kind of so-called bullied, and it's stuck. And did they mean anything by it? No, it was just good ribbing. It was fun, but it did inside. It was brutal. So I transferred back to the other school. I ran back to Sanderson, my other high school, and ended up graduating from there and went off, played college baseball, was in my freshman year. I didn't want to go to school, didn't want to leave home, because like I said, it changed who I was. Got there, first semester of college, quit baseball, couldn't do it, I'm done. my coach was great. He's like, hey, you can come back. Just, take your time. It was at the end of the season. I was like, I just can't do it, coach. I'm done. He goes, well, you can come back. So came back in the spring, they started practice. I'm like, oh, I gotta go back. Best thing that happened to me, I walked in and he's like, you can come back, but go make an appointment with this counselor. And so that's what I did. And it kind of fundamentally changed who I was, also because, I have a master's degree in counseling now as well. And it really goes back to that.
Yeah. That's the timeline of what happened, but that doesn't tell us who you are.
Yeah.
When you said you became the bully, like
No, I
what
didn't
was
become the
what was
bully. I was
going on
being
within
bullied.
you, and what did you do as that person?
Yeah, I didn't become the bully. I was the bullied,
Bullied. Okay.
Yeah. So they were coming at me, hard. It was always, so no, really, it changed who I was. I went from a cocky kid to a pretty, not introverted. That's not the right way, but I was very calm, very conservative, very, you
Cautious.
go forward. Oh, very cautious. I didn't go to parties. I didn't go out. I didn't do any of that stuff. I always changed. I always had a girlfriend, after that point. I always had to find somebody that I could dive into and trust. And that wasn't bad because I had been going out with a girl, starting in my freshman year. And even though she was still back at the other school, I kind of, it became her. The world became about me and her, at that point in time, because I wasn't cocky anymore. I really wasn't. It really changed me. When I say it changed me, it changed me. I went from that kid who thought he could do anything to that kid who I was playing well in sports and all that, but I wasn't that cocky kid like I was before.
Your perspective changed for sure.
My perspective of life changed, and to the point it parenting, and just life in general.
Yeah.
That moment makes me tell my kids and other people is, listen, if you wouldn't like it, then don't do it to somebody. If it would hurt your feelings, don't do it to somebody. So you can talk about the golden rule, right? Doing to others as you would have them do to you. But it takes it even a step further. It's the platinum, right? Is treat people the way they want to be treated. And in kind, they'll treat you the way you need to be treated. But it all came from that. It hurt, man. It literally hurt.
Would you say that experience humbled you at the time?
Oh, humbled me, totally humbled me. Again, I thought, if I'm being honest, to walk up to your high school coach and say, I'm going to start varsity for you, play varsity and start varsity. Like who does this 10th grade kid think he is? But I did.
My son did the same thing.
Yeah. But that's it. You want to have that confidence, right? I'm not saying.
And I don't think it's necessarily cocky. It's knowing your abilities and how you can contribute to your team. And my son knew. I mean, he played, AAU basketball, and I just same thing. Like, he was the team captain. He had an edge of cockiness, but he was very giving and kind and understanding to his teammates. So he was always the captain, but he was the youngest. Yeah. And he was a combo guard. So I get it when, you say, well, it's kind of cocky. Well, I don't know. If you want to succeed, there has to be a degree of that in you to be able to succeed. Otherwise, how do you being 100%, behind somebody in the shadows? You can't.
That's right. Yeah, it's cocky and confidence, right? You got to have the confidence that you can raise to a level to. I mean, it's competition. You're going to beat people
Absolutely.
out. Absolutely. And again, if you take that where I was, and you put it to where I am now, I'm no different. I'm gonna beat people out. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep striving. But at the same time, fun as a person, the way I treated people wasn't about me anymore. It became about other people. That's the facts.
So you became others focused, and a confidence, with a humble nature, and these are all things that makes you a Titan.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I think so, because if you have the confidence in yourself that you can continue to rise to the level, and again, if you go forward my whole career, that's what I've been able to do. At the same time, you got to treat people with respect, and that's something that a lot of people don't do right now. So people, like we just said, people can be mean.
Amen. Everybody hear this? Everybody needs to teach treat each other with respect. I am so freaking tired of people talking like, oh yeah, I respect all these people, and then they're sitting there shit talking them behind their back. And you're like, how the fuck is that?
Oh.
How is that respecting people?
Absolutely. I beat my kids up with don't talk about people, because you think like you're talking to your friends and you're smack talking somebody. I'm like, and the next minute they will throw you under the bus, because what they're trying to do is level up, and you're going to be the one who, and they've had to learn the hard way, but I think everybody has to learn the hard way. Is, again, if you wouldn't want it said about you, don't say it about somebody else. And if you say it about somebody else, somebody's going to go tell that person. Right. It's happening every time. And it just happens.
Those lessons,
it's brutal. It's true.
Those lessons, though, don't you think, Matthew, for kids, these days, especially because it's such, it's just norm these days for everybody to shit talk everybody else. Yeah. Right. And it's just like, they're just saying, they call it ribbing. Yeah. But truthfully, it is shit talking, and if they would just realize through these mistakes, if they would learn from them, and not everybody does, because some of them are just kind of like, well, whatever, and they continue shit talking. But if you really learn from these mistakes, I think it makes you a better person.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. Those mistakes, they teach us the biggest lessons, right? I have
100%
a friend of mine that's going through a breakup of sorts, and he asked me, he's like, well, what am I going to say about this? Like, people are going to ask me, like, what happened? It was like, I don't know what you should say, but I know that I've seen people break up before, and the ones that, even though it's going to be a disaster, no matter what way you slice it, it's going to be a train wreck. But when you're asked about what happened, you can just say that my mom said, if I had nothing nice to say, not to say anything at all, and move on. Yeah. People are gonna want the dirt. They're gonna want the story. Right. You don't have to give it to them, right?
That's true.
You can't control the other person, right? Whatever happened has happened. That's a historical fact, but you can change the narrative about what that looks like. You don't have to be the person like, oh yeah, Dish, give me the scoop on whatever happened. Like, hey, we didn't see things eye to eye anymore. We found out that we couldn't move forward in this situation, and that's all I have to say about it.
Or you could be like the attorney and say, oh, there was irreconcilable differences.
Irreconcilable
differences.
Stick there. You're right.
I've seen this. I've got someone close to me. Their parents went through a disaster of a divorce, and you ask one of them, and you can't talk to this person for 2 minutes before they start just running the other person to the ground, and you talk to the other person. And he's
so yucky.
Yeah, they're hurt, right? I get it that they're hurt, but the things you're saying aren't going to heal you. It's not going to heal them. Right. It's not going to make anyone feel good about you. And the other person says simply, I have nothing nice to say, and I'm not going to say anything. People forget that that's the option. You don't have to, and you can keep the stuff. You don't have to wreck the other person. So much is coming at you. When you're growing up, like your parents say, you're the best, you're the most wonderful, you're special. I know Chris Rock says, stop telling your kids they're special, because ain't no one outside the house believe it. And to be honest, some people in the house are kind of on the fence about this whole thing, right? Exactly. Then you get into someone like you get around the military. When I was going through commissioning down at the University of Oklahoma, there was a gunny sergeant, because you had both Navy and Marine Corps. And he rails on the kids, and he says all the time, like, look, your mom told you were special for 18 years. I'm here to tell you that's not true. We're going to get over that real quick. Real quick. You always have a special flair for making you feel just really terrible. Like the next business partner I get, he's going to be like a retired gunnery sergeant, just for the flavor that they add to every conversation. I love it.
Okay, so I have to ask, why is it just the Marines that has that flavor?
Well, the rest of the branches are soft. I just kidding. No, I'm not.
See, is that ribbing, or is that shit talking? We talked about this.
It's pride in the Marine Corps. You know what? Marine Corps takes pride in it. To be honest with you, talking about a pride thing, we take pride in it, and our goal is to set out and make the toughest Marines possible. You know, when you're first in, and I think the Marine still holds true in a lot of ways to that. If you're first in and you take the foothold in whatever country it is, and you tell that Marine to take the hill, he's got to take the hill without turning and going, are you sure? You want me to run up there where they're shooting back at me? And that, you know, you want me to do that? No. When you say take the hill, you go take the hill. And no questions
asked.
So when that gunnery sergeant's coming down and screaming at you, that's mild compared to what it is when bullets are flying back at you. And when he says go, go. And I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah. You know, being in the Navy for 22 years, I can definitely say that me specifically would never have been a fit in the Marine Corps. I found out the thing that drives me is like, I'm always questioning, I'm always trying to improve, I'm always trying to figure out the thing. And man, the Marine Corps does not have room for fucking people like me. They just don't. When I was in Bahrain and was learning about podcasting and business and stuff a couple of years ago, I figured out what that was, and that was a like entrepreneurial spirit in me that I've had forever. I could just never define it. But like if I was in the Marine Corps, like I would have got my ass kicked. In the Navy, they can just tell me to shut up and go color, right? They'd be like, again with the ideas, get the fuck out of here, dude. Like they can, you know, and especially in aviation, right? They're like, get the fuck out of here, dude.
Tap you on the head. Oh, that's cute. Bye-bye.
When I finally figured that out, though, for me, like really understanding who I am, like I knew that I could no longer be in the Navy. You know, fortunately, I hit retirement, and I didn't do that at like 8 years or something. Like the 22 years, I'm like, yeah, sorry, Navy, it's not me, it's you. We're not. This is a breakup letter.
We got to break up.
No, Cyan been here in 2 weeks. And that's just how it goes. Like really understanding who you are is at the core of everything that we end up doing. And Matt, you've been doing amazing things, not beyond just flying, right? You've built this whole network, this Convene Communities. Tell us a little bit about that and why that started.
About that, yeah.
But to do that, I got to go to the next big saga story of my life.
Buckle up, folks. Here we go.
That was when I was in the Marine Corps. And so it was a training hop. It was July 9th of 2001. And this night drives my whole life. Everything I do is because of this night. And went out to do a training hop, 2 CH-46 Echoes. We were going to do some practice shipboard landings on what was called the LHA deck. The LHA deck, of course, you know, is a big ship, right? LHDs are what we fly on now, but the LHA deck was on the side of the New River. We actually had a landing pad that was the size of the deck of a ship. And that's where we would do our practice shipboard landings. So it's kind of realistic because it was down a little cliff. So you felt like you got that feeling of crossing over onto a ship, you know. So I was supposed to fly with my combat crew chief. My combat crew chief, a guy named Clark Beatty. This guy checked into the squadron the day that I checked in. And when I saw him and I went down to flight equipment there, not flight equipment, flight maintenance control to get signed for the aircraft, I said to him, I'm like, that you signed the book. That's like getting the keys to the car, right? You sign it. As soon as you sign it, it's yours. You own it. And I walked in and he is, he's looking through the book. And I was like, hey, bro, give me the book. Let me sign it. And he goes, well, we changed the schedule. You're not flying with him anymore. You're flying with the new guy, Sergeant Salah. So, okay. So I signed the other book, you know, and last, thing he said to me was, well, we're not flying tonight, but we'll be together tomorrow night. Okay. So you have to fly. So we go. We departed out single ship. The goal was we were going to each take off individually. We'll get down to the LHA deck. We'll do our landings and we depart. Well, what ended up happening? We had an aircraft issue in my aircraft. We landed on the LHA deck. Everybody's inside. We're talking about it. So nobody's really looking out. The gunny in the back goes, hey, sir, they're on downwind. Okay, good to go. We continue our conversation. And then I say, hey, gunny, can we lift? And he goes, sir, did they call departing? I don't see him. The new guy, Sergeant Salah, the guy that got rotated in the last second to fly with me, goes, he had just gotten there from Okinawa, Japan. He said, sir, there are rocks in this water. I see something in the water. And he goes, sir, come up now. They're in the water. So we come up, swing the nose around, and there it was. They had flown into the water. They had crashed. So long story short there, they made a 12-second human error. And from that 12-second human error, they flew it straight into the water. and 3 Marines lost their lives, to include my combat crew chief, Clark Beatty. So what was, we went from that to being an on-scene commander, trying to recover our peers. So the 2 pilots survived, the 3 crew chiefs in the back died. And it was brutal. It's literally to this day the worst night of my life. Every July 9th for me it's not a fun day, as well as everybody in my squadron. Starts at the beginning of the day and goes all day. The messaging back and forth and the posts. I've never seen and this is no disrespect to all those other veterans, because I have a lot of friends who didn't make it, but I've never seen a Marine that moved so many people as Clark Beatty. It is literally, that day is like a memorial day to Clark Beatty. So the hard part was this for me. I came out, we were out sitting out on the LHA deck. We're watching them raise the aircraft out of the water. Found out that the whole thing was about a 12-second human error. They turned on a red cockpit dome light. And so they made their goggles go away. Doesn't mean you can't fly the aircraft. It's a perfectly good aircraft, but everybody focused on turning the light out. Well, the reality of it is, should have never happened. Found out that a year and a half prior in another squadron, the same thing that caused the mishap that night. And this squadron from a year and a half prior kept it a secret. They did it shared. It was a 6 cents fix. It took less than 2 minutes to take that little bolt, turn it from a single toggle switch into a dual toggle switch. So that red cockpit dome light would have never been able to be turned on. And therefore, they wouldn't have had the issue with their night vision goggles and coming around and landing. So when I watched them pull the helicopter out of the, you got 3 Marines sitting there just crying, me, Sergeant Slaw, and Gunny Collins. It was watching them pull the aircraft. I made a promise that day that I would dedicate my life to, helping people not have human error, not, have things that cause mistakes, whether that be, well, at first it was decision-making. I taught decision-making, career resource management, did it in all kinds of environments because I'm a pilot in hospitals, air medical crews, nuclear industry, power industry, but I was speaking at Duke University and people were coming up and talking to me about their battles with their marriage, their relationships and parenting. And I thought about and I'm like, yeah, this is bigger than just flying aircraft and working in a high risk environment. This is everyday life. And it's kind of what you guys are, your show is here. It's, we all have a story. We all have something that we can share and we can all take our experience and change lives with it. And so that's what I've been doing since July 9th of 2001.
Yeah, it's tough. I was fortunate enough that we never lost an airplane in my 22 years, but we lost tons of sailors to DUIs, suicides, traffic accidents, all sorts of terribleness. Like, I don't know where your numbers are at, but like I've known 12 people that have committed suicide, which is a disgusting number.
Yeah.
Absolutely disgusting.
Well, just today, a good friend of mine, is his anniversary day. I grew up in the Marine Corps with him, 32 years in the Marine Corps, 32 years. It was his retirement day. It was his change of command. He walked past the duty at 5:30 in the morning, walked into his office and pulled out a 9mm. Yeah. 32 years. He was done. He was out. He had a great job, wonderful family, wife, 2 kids. And it was just the thought of the transition, I guess, out of the Marine Corps, out of the life he had known for 32 years. He took his life. And that's today. That's the anniversary today because I saw his wife did a post about him earlier today. So,
wow. I think when you've been a part of a community and of a way of life for so long, the idea of it no longer existing can be too much to bear, because that has been your main focus for so many years. And how do you incorporate a life that you've never known into your daily when everything's been so regimented up to that point in time, so I can't even imagine like how overwhelming that would be.
You have some idea, right? I retired a year ago And the things that we've done and talked about, Carol, over this past year, you've seen me on the highs and the lows over the past year. And that's just us meeting each other for the first time. It's was it 11 months, right? Maybe 1 week shy of a year.
The longest 11 months of your life.
Well, stop it. No, I actually
that is
didn't
not
even
true.
think it was that long, to be honest. I didn't. If I look back now, it is almost a year, but it doesn't feel like a year.
I know you and I have had fantastic times and fantastic days in there. I've known we've had some battles in there, and that's exactly.
But that's what life is the ups and downs, right?
But it's just that transition, because I retired from the Navy 2 months before I met you, so I was in that time that he's talking about. And that was right after I retired when we met. And I see, I was cocky enough to think that I was so prepared for the civilian world that my transition wouldn't affect me. I honestly felt that way. And last November, like, I just got crushed. I was completely burned out, I started being a jerk to people. I'm 100% sure I was a jerk to Carol sometime in the last couple months.
It's okay.
Yeah. That's why
I'm
we're
used
friends.
to it. Guys are
together,
jerks.
right?
But you're so right, though, that people don't understand the transition. I call it, I when I talk to veterans and work with veterans, it's the security blanket. You had the Navy security blanket on. I had the Marine Corps security blanket on. You're going to get paid the 1st and 15th. You're going to get every 72, every 96. You got your 30 days paid vacation. You're coming up for deployment. You're going to go. You're in the mindset. Life is that way. If Travis and I walked into a bar, somebody tried to fight him, he's fighting him and he's fighting me, because people have each other back for the most part. Mm-hmm. You walk out to the civilian world and you're like,
you're on your own.
What is this? Yeah. What is this? It's literally, it's like the Twilight Zone almost. You're like, this is crazy. And you don't think it's going to be, but it is. It really is. It's just a different world. You lose that whole security blanket, that support network that you're so used to, it just being right there for you. And you watch people suffer. Going through
really
it.
Do. I wanted to say something about your story, which is just, it's awful. It really is. There's, I was a naval flight officer for the Navy for my last 11 years. I was a aviation safety officer. I was also a crew resource management instructor. And what we do, like, for safety investigations, like, all of those things are designed to be non-punitive. You can't get in any trouble. You have to tell the truth. And that other squadron held that secret for a year. Had the process worked as it was advertised, and you go and you do an investigation, you end up writing articles and sending it out, not only nationwide, but through all the military services, messages that come out that help you update aircraft, that help keep the things safe. And we share those stories so people don't find themselves in the same situation. I know, we do, like, when we go through flight school in Pensacola, we go through helo dunker training. We get in a big cylinder. It's on a crane. It's in the pool. You strap you in, and you're starting to go down towards the water. It's to simulate a helicopter going down. The rotors hit, the whole thing flips over, and you're strapped in a pool, and you've got to get out. And I know quite a few. There's that. The training gives people PTSD. The training itself has people quitting flight training, whether they're an enlisted air crew or they're some kind of flight crew that's commissioned. Like, this stuff is no joke.
Let me tell you a great story about my last time in the dunker.
True story. I love the dunker. It's what it is.
That's the best. The dunker.
I love the dunker. I think it's great.
I do too. I actually like the dunker. It's actually, I don't want to say it's fun, because it's not fun, but one of your rides is you're blindfolded. And how do they blindfold you? They give you these goggles that are spray painted black inside. So imagine this, okay? Carol, you get in the back, you're in the back corner, you have goggles on, you can't see. It's black. It's black. It's just you. There's no, like, so it was my turn. I'm in the back, and of course I draw the worst seat for the back. It's the doors over here, so it's the back left corner. So you have to reach across, grab, and then you got to pull yourself down. You got to get to the door, and then you got to find the door, and you got to pull yourself out. So you got the longest way to travel to get out. So I'm down, and I find my way to the door. I feel my hands are right in the corner of the door. Everything's great. I pull, bam, I hit the wall. And I'm like, okay, how is this happening? Because I'm feeling myself in the door. I pull, and now it's been a long time here. I'm starting to lose my breath. I pull again, bam, I hit it again. And panic is about to set in. And when panic sets in the dunker, what ends up happening is things start flailing. You pulling the goggles off, you're doing whatever. And I felt this hand come underneath me, lift me up, and push me out. And the diver came out and came up to me, rode up with me, and looked at me. He goes, I'm a major, right? And he knows I'm a major at the time. He goes, you're good, sir. You're good. So I didn't have to do it again, because if you fail, you got to do it again, But that was scary. It was like, holy crap. But I was in the door. What I was doing is I was hitting the door. It was like this, and I was hitting the edge.
Yeah.
Think about
so you
that.
weren't
That could have
clearing
killed
it.
me. I wasn't clearing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh man, it was just a matter of
clearing
like
it by that much. And I was about to panic, and he's like, no, you're good. And but yeah, that was my last ride ever in a dunker.
Well, so for a little bit of context, right? You're in helmet, flight suit, and boots, and you're in an indoor pool in Pensacola, and they have divers in the water to make sure exactly what Matt's talking about. You prevent some kind of freak out or panic, and the training is vital, because when you ride in a helicopter in the military, your first ride that you ever do, that helo might go down, and you might need to have that training to understand how to save yourself. So we do it. You do hands over hand, lights out. You've got to break the window out. There's like a thing.
You got to break the window out.
You got to break the window out, and you got to get through and get out and do all that stuff. I had a struggle in the pool myself. They always ask you in training, they're like, oh, are you safe? Did you get a good amount of sleep? You're in flight school. Ain't no one getting a good night's sleep, right? Yeah, everyone just lies on that one. I grew up in the water. I grew up on the lakes. I grew up just having a great time in the water all the time. And they say, well, how did you feel? Did you get a good night's sleep? My son was sick like all night. I got like 30 minutes of sleep. And it was that one where you have to swim across the pool, flight suit, boots, helmets, and you've got a life vest on, but it's not inflated. And you have to go to this section, and you've got to tread water for like 3 minutes. It feels like 3 hours. It feels like 3 damn hours. And if you do it wrong, if you end up like coming up out of the water and start like bobbing, like you're putting a lot of energy, right?
Yeah.
And like 20 seconds into doing that, they pulled me out of the pool. They're like, you got to do this again. I was like, like I was so exhausted. I was so tired from all the training, from all the stuff they put you through. And so I got put on swim hold for like 2 weeks, and they had me redo it. They're like, oh, you did it so easily. I was like, well, I actually got sleep this time.
Amazing what happens when you get sleep.
Oh my God,
right?
Amazing.
But I've heard people talk about like that have crashed, who've gone down in the water, and they're like, cord store reference belt. That's what they teach you. And they're like, you just kick in, you just do it.
You hit that adrenaline, and that adrenaline rush is what pulls you through. I mean, that's the reason we have it, is for those emergency moments. It is nature's way of protecting us.
Yeah, no doubt.
It really is. The thing that he mentioned, the sequence, a lot of people forget, especially people that, this kills me, people that leave the military forget this. The reason that's successful is because of all the repetitions you've done, from all the training that you've done. A lot of civilians don't know this. Like 95% of what the military does is training. So when it does come to that time, when that shit does hit the fan, when the helo goes in the water, when you got to take that hill, that because of the repetitions, the training kicks in and you do it. Like
second nature.
Civilians don't like to train for
like
shit.
That. Yeah.
One of the guys that was a guy named Brett Woods. He was a captain. I can't remember if I was still a lieutenant, or maybe I could have been a junior captain. But I was flying with him one of my first flights on the ship, and he gets in and he straps in, and I look over at him, and his eyes are closed, and he goes, cord, door, and he grabs the reference and he pulls his belt. And he looks at me and he goes, every time you get in this, you need to do the same thing. And he did religiously. he would get in when we're coming off the ship, and he would do it. He'd close his eyes and he would find his reference spot. He would do a forward store, because what's happened with people, they found people that have come out and gotten out of the helicopter or whatever aircraft, they're suspended in the water because they didn't undo their cords.
Oh God.
I mean, that wouldn't piss you off.
Yeah.
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 Floating to safety, and you're like, back in. It's funny as we're talking about it here, but if it's real life, you're like,
I can't even
oh
imagine.
my goodness.
Yeah. So I have to ask then, Matthew, like when you were in high school, did you have your sights on being in the military?
Yeah, I wanted to be a pilot big time. I originally went to University of North Carolina at Greensboro to play baseball, and I actually tried to do Air Force ROTC at North Carolina A&T, which is in Greensboro, and quickly found out that D1 sports is a full-time job, and you are not doing that. And a couple of weeks, it was actually a few weeks later, one of the best kept secrets in the entire world, for anybody who listens.
Not anymore.
I know. Is what's called the PLC program, a platoon leaders class program, and it's how Marines become pilots. And it's basically, I stopped doing RTC. I was walking through the cafeteria area, saw the Marine recruiters. I'd always wanted to be a pilot, had no idea how to become a pilot, and they were playing the videos. But the PLC program is a program where you sign your dedicated contract. So I knew I was guaranteed. I had a guaranteed flight contract. I had to go to officer candidate school in the summer. And then once I graduated, I became commissioned. And then I went off and did what's called the basic school. And that was the rest was history. But yes, you're so right, Carol. I wanted to be a pilot. It was my dream. I still have friends that talk to me and say, you did it. And I have one friend that tells me I'm the biggest overachiever he's ever met.
Pleased to meet you.
Very true.
Yeah. It's so interesting that the people that we end up talking to and the people that we right here end up surrounding ourselves with have this drive within us, this motor that won't quit. Like whatever's like you do something, like before you do it, you're like, oh, it's impossible. And then you get it done. And you're like, well, that was easy. Well, the whole time you were telling yourself you couldn't do it, you did it. And as soon as it's over, you don't even congratulate yourself. You're just on to the next thing, whatever the next thing is. And we stack these things up and stack them up and stack them up and stack. And unless we burn out, we're going to continue doing that in perpetuity forever. People look at my resume. I know they look at yours, Carol, and I'm pretty sure they look at Matt's and be like, how the heck did you do all this?
Yeah.
No downtime. Like we just go to the one thing to the next thing to the next thing.
Well,
I'll tell you something.
Go ahead.
If somebody says it's impossible,
it's not.
I take that as a challenge. Like I'll find a way to make sure that it is possible.
And I took that personally.
There is no such thing.
Yeah. So, look, I got to tell you another story. Like, so we haven't really talked about my platform, Convene, right? Which is good. But it's so funny when I introduce myself, because I was up last weekend in Richmond, Virginia, and I was up in front of the crowd, and I introduced myself, and I always introduce myself long. I won't make it as long as I do, but Marine Corps pilot, retired, started a training program for, and I talk about. Let me do the first part because it's pretty interesting. So I'll say, I'm a retired Marine Corps pilot. I flew CH-46 Echo, and I actually led some of the initial missions in Afghanistan in 2001. And kind of interesting note, when I was on the way over to Afghanistan after September 11th, I got flown off the ship out of Egypt and flew to Bahrain. I was locked in this room with this guy you may have heard of. It was me and two other Marines and General Mattis, and we planned the airfield seizure of Kandahar and the airfield seizure of Southwest Desert Airstrip. I did that. I became a weapons tactics instructor, and I went and became a flight school, flew air medical. I'm shortening it now, but I flew air medical, then I flew for Penske, and I do all that. And people, when I'm telling the story, and they're going, you did that, you've flown 650 mission, flights as an air medical pilot. Now you started flying a helicopter for Team Penske NASCAR and Indy. Now you fly a jet. And then I'll say, but all that said, that's my side gig. And I truly feel like that's my side gig. That's not my main focus in life. And my main focus in life is my platform, Convene. And so, and the Convene Communities platform, it's we call it Platform with a Purpose. It's for people like you guys, anybody, anywhere that has an idea, a passion, a story, to bring that passionate story into the platform. It's the leave behind, because remember I told you I spoke at Duke University. Spoke at Duke University. I had, a line of 20 people that wanted to talk to me after I got done, with my speaking, and I'm there. And the topic is decision-making, crew resource management in a high-risk environment, like an air medical crew and a trauma center. I'm talking to doctors, nurses, EMTs, all of these air medical crews. Nobody talked to me about that topic. Everybody took what I talked about for that hour, and they tied it to life. They tied it to their own experiences in parenting and marriage and in their relationships. That's what they want to talk to. Problem was, what was my leave behind? Where did I send them to? I didn't have a Facebook group. Do I send them to, my website? But where can they collaborate with me? And so I had this platform that I had been building for years, and I was working with, and there were companies that used it business to business wise, but I'm like, why keep it for just myself? Why not let anybody and everybody use it? Like somebody that Travis and I know, like Lisa Herring, a lady that makes the most money on the platform, 66 years old, and she teaches people how to file for Social Security and disability benefits. And when you read her testimonials, they will bring you to tears, because she's teaching people how to file for Social Security and disability benefits. And she gets a testimony like, you have made me feel like a man again, because you helped me get a check for $60,000. And now I feel like I can contribute to my family. That's an influencer. She's an influencer.
Lisa
One person
flat out
Lisa
amazing.
is an influencer.
She's flat out amazing. I've gotten more referrals from Lisa than the next 5-10 people combined. She is all about service, all about helping other people. And it sounds like she's using your platform to the max.
Thriving. She's thriving in it. It's because what it does is you get to come in, and don't come in and take her, she has 22, we call them experiences, because we learn through experience. I don't call them training, a class, or whatever. She has 22 experiences that she puts people through. She has a workbook, but where the magic happens is they get to ask her questions. They get to collaborate. That's where learning management systems and platform go wrong nowadays, is because I can put you through my 10-step course. But if I'm going through your 10-step course, Carol and Travis, I want access to you. I want to be able to ask you questions. She does so well in her discussion board. That's where she makes her money, because veterans can ask her questions as themselves or anonymously. And she's dealing with people with military sexual trauma. She's dealing with people who are still on active duty with clearances. She's dealing with people who have some stories they don't really want to talk about, but they have questions, so they can ask her anonymously, and she can respond to them. And so that's
is it in a forum type of
it has everything. So the platform inside of a group, you have groups, you have communities, and you have groups. So inside of the groups, we give you all the tools that you might possibly need. Discussion boards that are like forums.
But how do you choose your groups? So I'm gonna ask a lot of questions, because I don't understand.
Right.
And I'm gonna come into this as somebody that's never experienced it before.
Absolutely.
So how do you first of all mentioned experiences, and then you mentioned groups. So take me from the beginning. If I say to you, Matthew, I want to join Convene, what is my number one thing to do? Sign up.
Sign up
and pick a group that
you're signing up, and the first place you're entering in is a community. What's my community of interest? So is it, in Lisa's case, am I going into Social Security and disability benefits with Lisa Herring? Am I going into a community? You and I talked a little bit earlier. We know we're both parents. Am I going into the parenting community? Because there's a community that focuses just on parenting. You name it, we can have a community for it. Now, I joined that community. How
many communities do you
right now? We probably have 16, I think, if I'm going off the top of my head, maybe 16 communities. Anywhere.
And if you don't have a community based on what that person wants, you create a community.
We can create, and we have community leaders. So we have people in there that, like the lady that leads the parenting community. Her name is Kate Gallagher. She is a former pediatric PA, And so she worked 20 years as a pediatric PA and decided that she felt like she could do more outside of a pediatric office on a bigger scale than she could in. So she started a parenting community. All right, so let's just stick with the parenting community, because since we're on that topic. So the overall,
we're all parents anyway.
That's right. We're all parents. I think that's a good topic. So the overarching umbrella is parenting in there. All right. And then inside of the community, you have different things like that people use, like there's blogging, there are discussion boards, there are members. So you can, it's like LinkedIn. So we've taken all the good stuff at all the different places and we brought it into one spot. So you can do it all under this umbrella. Now, there are groups inside of a community because there's a lot of different areas that parenting can go. There's a lady named Amy Krause who talks about bullying and confidence in middle schools all across the country. And she has a group inside of there where she's taken the stuff that she's doing in schools, and that's her space. It's like being in the mall. You walk into the mall, here's the mall. And then when you get into the mall, you want to go into the different stores. In the stores, that's what groups are, right? So Amy has a group. There's a guy named Mark Ullman, who's a retired teacher who teaches leadership to kids. He's got a place in there. So you name it, there can be any groups because we all do different things. And I might come in and say, you know, I'm just making this up. Travis, let's say he has a course on entrepreneurship for kids. You know, I might come in and be like, hey, you know, I want my kid to take your class, entrepreneurship. So I send them over there, you know, but that's not what you teach. You teach something, or you have a group that's completely different. So again, it's like going to the mall and we all might go to different stores, but we get to choose what stores we go into. And inside of those groups, they have all the tools that you need to include document management. We're a full document manager, so you don't have to go to Dropbox, Google Docs, or any of that. And then we have a CRM, where anybody can have a CRM, so you can track your content, contacts, all those different things. And then for Boeing, we had a contract with Boeing. We built project management, so people can actually run their entire business all in one spot with all those different tools. And
they can monetize within it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So people sell courses in there. It's 3 different types of groups because Convene is a public benefit corporation. So one of the things we do is we help nonprofits. All nonprofits always use the platform for free, but there's 3 different types of groups. There's free groups. You can have private groups where you control who comes in and who goes out. So I can send you an invite and invite you in, or you can request to come in. Or you have what we call premier groups. Those are your groups where you can set
parameters.
A paywall where it's either a monthly membership or a one-time payment subscription there. So there you go. But it's even more. Let me tell you the most important thing. The most important thing is it's based off of experiential learning. We all bring something to the table. So if I'm going to have a course, again, I did a TikTok video this morning on, I call it the 80-20 rule. And the 80-20 rule, I will use Lisa on the 80-20 rule. Most platforms focus 80% on their content, 20% on their members. And what I mean by that is that, you know, I might put a 10-step course on how to file for Social Security and disability benefits. We flip it. The group features come first. So the discussion board come first. So we focus 80% on our members, 20% on the content, because where the magic happens is, yes, I'm going to go through Lisa's content, but I get to ask Lisa any question that I want. And she's the expert, and she's going to be the one responding to me. And that's why her success rate is so huge for people getting their filing their claims.
So, but it's based, those discussions are in a forum, right? Not in a one-to-one discussion.
Now, yes, it's in a forum.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. So then it allows everybody else to view the question and how she responds.
Yes. And that becomes like, for her, that's her FAQ, that those discussion boards.
Yep. 100%. Yeah.
They're completely searchable. And so again, you know, maybe I come in as a veteran and I don't want to put my, you know, that name. I'm suffering with something. So I can do it anonymously, or I can do it with Matthew Currin attached to it.
Actually, I like the choice, because then if it's a sensitive subject, you don't have to go into it with people knowing who asked the question.
Right.
So I like that.
And what you see here is, there's more people think they're walking alone in life. That's a fact. Again, I have a degree in counseling as well. People think they're walking alone in life, and you're not. You're actually walking alongside of people who are going through the same things that you're going through. And so it allows you to really go in, and maybe I put something, this is the best part of Convene. Maybe I put something in there and I put it anonymously in, let's say, the parenting community or another, community like that. Like, I'm the only one in the world, possible parent in the world, who's dealing with this subject. That's just got to be the way.
Newsflash, nope.
And I put it in there. And you'll see that here they come. People are responding. And what you'll see is Travis responds as himself. You respond as yourself. And then other people start responding anonymously because they don't want to share their dirt, so to speak. And so
but there's a part of that vulnerability, I think, that, when you respond and it comes from that place, it lets people know, hey, we've gone through some shit, and it's okay. You'll recover. It'll be fine. One thing we always know is we will survive and we will persevere. And most people forget that in the moment.
They do it when they feel like, Carol, that when they feel like they can't get up off the mat.
Yep.
That's where you got to be there and help them lift them up off the mat.
100%. Somebody always extended a hand to you. Extend the hand for others.
Yeah, exactly. So if
it's
you go back
like
to my story,
it's almost like we built this podcast on that principle.
It is. It's like we started way back at the beginning to get to this moment right here.
Some people are really ready to share. Some people are really ready to give that feedback. Other people, we've had to re-interview a guest because, like, initially she hopped on and she was like, "Why do you want to know all my secrets, Travis?" The walls came up, wasn't ready to share.
Oh God.
And I fully understand that. It took me a long time to share my story. Yeah. The first time I shared it in public, like, I ran off stage. Like, I was like, I gotta get away from this. But the more I share
I'm the creator and founder of Convene, right? If I can go anywhere I want and one of the forums or the discussion boards, we call it, but I can go and I can put that anonymously. Let's say I'm having a parenting moment, right? Nobody knows it's me. It's not like I'm coming out and saying, hey, I want to tell you about Braden, Megan, and Lainey. And one of my kids is really having this problem. And so I'm putting my family or putting them on blast, but I really want to know. And it's like, also, I always talk about this story. If you go to a group session, or maybe it's a Bible study, maybe it's something like that, you get the same people that talk over and over and over and over. And
yes.
Over. And you get the other people that are sitting there in the corner and they have something to say, but they're not sure themselves and they don't want to say. So you create, we call them experiences. You take that, you create that experiences, and you say, go home and spend your own time responding to this in an experience. And guess what your answers are inside of an experience? You wouldn't believe it. Your answers are anonymous. So nobody knows. And so that collaborate, you'll see people just start opening up. Once they figure out that, hey, this is different, it's not meant to be Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. This is meant to be collaborative communities where we're coming together to help each other out. And when they do it and they figure out they can be open and honest and really get something out of it, and oh my gosh, I'm not alone. Somebody else is going through the same thing that I thought that I was the only one in the world going through this. Then they start to open up. And that's what makes us different. That moment right there, which is,
there's this acceptance that comes with that. And it is a basic need for all people. All human beings want to be accepted.
So here's a counseling thing, right? People want to be seen, heard, and validated. And if they're going to be seen, heard, and validated and work with you, they have to know, like, and trust you. And that's
absolutely.
Build that vulnerability. You can build that trust. And now you've broken down that wall and you can work together. And that's just facts.
Yeah. I love that. I love that whole platform, the community. Thank you for indulging me and kind of walking me through the process.
I appreciate it.
Because, really, there's a lot of platforms out there, and all of them will sit there and, tell you exactly why it's the best.
Yeah.
But I wanted to break it down. It's not about being the best or whatever. Does it serve the purpose that you want it to serve, right? And so that's what I was trying to get at, was I want to treat it like I am a complete newbie coming into it, don't even know what it is. And I want to ask these questions. And I love what you've built, because it allows people the opportunity at their own comfort level and speed, right? To open up
Yeah.
and really engage with others, because I think once they start to realize they aren't alone and they can open up, there is this community now that they feel like they're a part of. And truthfully, we're human beings. We all want to be a part of something larger than ourselves.
Exactly.
So being a part of a community like that is pretty freaking awesome. I'm excited to actually delve in and see what this is all about.
Yeah, you have to give yourself a chance to understand it. That's just the
Yeah.
fact, is is it for everybody? No, it's not for everybody. But it's different, and it's different for a reason. It's different.
Well, hey, it's just like us as human beings. We are not for everybody, but we are for the right people.
Yeah, exactly. But it is like we came full circle.
We did 100%. Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. It's fun to see the growth really taking off. It's fun to see people now, it used to be that, for example, that I had to be on all the meetings. I had to, people now you got communities just running there. It's their community.
I love it. I
don't have to be there. I built a resource. And then that's it. Like you said it perfectly. Like people think, well, he's selling the platform, No, it's a resource, and you can choose to use it if you want to or not, and it's a wonderful thing now that people are really kind of catching hold of it and saying, okay, this can be used for the greater good, Again, that's why we call it a platform with a purpose, because you'll meet people like Lisa Herring. Again, if you haven't interviewed Lisa, Carol's got to meet Lisa. Just the most amazing woman. I'm telling you, it's a story that's phenomenal, but she's just, she was my guest last night on our show, our Monday night call. So it was really fun. Oh,
you've got a podcast too, don't you?
Yeah. Well, the way I do it now is we do it kind of on Monday nights. We bring a guest in on our Monday night calls. And I love this format with what we do because.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Monday night calls.
Yes.
So explain what the Monday night calls are. And
you're so good. Yeah, the Monday night calls it's basically we have a Monday night call every Monday, 7:00. And what we'll do is we'll bring a guest on that's using the platform, but it's really more about their story. And we talk for the first 30 minutes, of that interview. And I'm interviewing normally somebody that's doing it. And it can be like last night, Lisa went through her whole thing about SSDI, how she is using the platform and all the great things that she's doing. And then we kind of open it up. So people are actually watching. They're there. They're on it, but they're all muted. Their cameras are off. So it's just me and Lisa on there. And so after, I'll see comments, people ask questions in the chat. I'll pull them up and ask her some questions. And then what we'll do, last night we were actually, interview went about 40 minutes with her. And then everybody has the ability to turn on their cameras and start really kind of collaborating and asking her questions. It's a good format for Convene. Like next Monday night, one of the guys that's in Convene, his name's Josh Griffith. He's a TikTok influencer. And so he is doing great things because on TikTok, he does all this great stuff, pretty funny stuff and everything. But he focuses on men's mental health is his main thing. However, his audience is mostly women. That's who comes on. And we do the same kind of format on Thursday nights within. He has its own community. And, people are on there and they're watching, but it's always 3-4 guys sitting around talking. We call it sitting around talking barbershop style. And then about every 4th or 5th week, he'll bring like at least 2 ladies on. So it's like the 2 against 2, going back and forth about issues, relationships, dating. So we give our guys opinion, and then every once in a while, the ladies come on and it's going back and forth and all that, which is really good. But he can do that now. He can take that TikTok form, that social media where he's at, where they're the quick hits and all that. And now he can bring it over into a community where people can engage and actually talk to him and sit on his podcast and engage in the podcast. So it's really pretty cool.
Hold on. So now these people that come that you interview within Convene have their own podcasts on Convene?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
This is like multi-level. Okay, so
Yeah.
this is as
Yeah,
you
it's
go
like this.
on. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm
So
like
you're
asking
taking
questions. Yeah.
you're taking this podcast, right? You're taking this podcast, you're recording it, and then you're obviously putting it out there all over the place. But it would be like this becomes your leave behind. Hey, you want to learn more? You want to interact with us? Come into our
Sure.
community and convene. And now they're actually in the community, they're interacting, and it's in there, and they can ask questions and they can do all that. So it's now it's engaging at a different level. So he's coming on Monday night, and he's going to talk about, because he is a TikTok influencer, and we have so many people that social media and marketing is so important. He's going to teach a class on the mechanics of using TikTok, how TikTok and other social media work, and then how he's taken that concept and he's pushing it, not quitting in all of this, keep doing everything that you're doing, but now he's brought it into this community that's a little bit more incorporated, and you know, you get access to them. So and he's pretty smart business wise. What Josh understands is that if he builds the model and he can go out and show other influencers and other people what he's doing, then they're going to come as well.
Absolutely.
And teaching them how to monetize, because there's a lot of referral fees on Convene, so we sell each other stuff, you know.
Love it.
Give each
It
other
should be mutually beneficial.
It is very mutually beneficial. So there you go.
Yep. Wow.
I can't believe that Travis, some Marine, built this, man. A Marine of all things.
That's probably the hardest thing for me to accept on this whole podcast, let's be honest. There's always this so those that don't know, there's these like inter-service rivalries, and you know, we jab and rib each other all the time. And if you're in the community, right, if you're in the fraternity of brotherhood, like, you can say whatever you want to say. Here's the deal: if you're witnessing this happening and you're not in that community, do yourself a favor and don't say anything. You want to see the entire group turn against you? Go ahead and jump in with your opinion. How that works out for you. I promise you, it's not what you would expect.
Yeah, that's right. It's pretty funny.
So this has been fantastic. As we're getting ready to wrap up here, we've got just a few minutes left. A couple of questions for you. One, well, we already know that you want everyone to go to Convene Communities, which we'll just go ahead and knock that one out for you. But if someone is someone's struggling out there with wherever they're at in life, with whatever challenges that they have, what advice would you give someone in that position?
Yeah, you know, it's reaching out and getting the help that you need. I'm a huge believer of peer-to-peer counseling, whatever that peer-to-peer counseling might be. I know that veterans will open up to veterans, just from what you were just saying, Travis. I know that, you know, I'll be honest, it's very hard for me to do counseling in the substance abuse arena, because guess what? I've never dealt with that. I drank and tried to kill myself one night, and, you know, I was done with it, you know. So finding the right type of people that you can talk to, that have walked your walk and talked your talk, it becomes very, very important. And reach out. You know, you're not walking alone. I think that's the thing that most people get lost in. They think they're walking this life alone, and they're not. You know, there are people who have gone through the same things that you've gone through. And so find your people, whether that be on Convene, that's just one resource, or whether that be on whatever resource, a club, a nonprofit, you name it. There's so many resources out there. You know, I got out, just one example, I got out of the Marine Corps, and I got medically retired my first day, December 31st, 2006 was my last day on active duty. So I've been retired a long time. I'm old, and I'm an old man. Dang, I just turned 51 the other day. But the thing is I didn't do anything veteran wise until 2019. That's when I reached out and did something with a veteran group, and it was one of the best things I did. The Wounded Warrior Umpire Academy. So I became an umpire, and then I went over with an organization called Heroes to Heroes to Israel. It took me a long freaking time, you know, and I'm telling you, every single July 9th is brutal. So in 2020 or 2020, it was 2020, I think, or 2021, on July 9th, I was in Charleston, South Carolina, umpiring a baseball tournament with a bunch of veterans. And it was the first time that I did not break down and cry. And you know what I did? I did a live podcast with one of my friends, another veteran, that night, and it just helped me through. So find your people is what, to answer your question. Find your people. They're out there. Just don't think that you're alone, because that's when you get in trouble. So when you're in the hole and when you're down on your knees and you're in the suck. So find them. Hope that was a good answer.
Great advice as always. Where do you want people to connect with you at? If you have like one favorite, I don't know, social media, or your one favorite email, what's the one place you want them to connect with you?
Sure. The one place, believe it or not, obviously it's at Convene Communities. So they can come in and join convene.convenecommunities.com. Again, you can go up to my profile and you can send me a message right in there. And I like that, if you come into Convene and connect with me that way, it's good. I can't tell you how many, I'm a counselor. Okay. I'm a counselor, right? I will answer up and I will spend time with you. And that's the platform that I've created. I don't per se do counseling as a career because I'm a pilot, and I got Convene, but I spend a lot of time, when people reach out to me, and there's been some people who have reached out to me through the platform who are on the brink of suicide and all the other things. And you can always reach out to me and I'll answer, and I'll get on a call with you. And either if I can help you, I'll help you, or not, I'll find you the resource that can help you. And a lot of times, we're very connected inside of Convene now. So that's a great place.
Thanks a lot, Matt. We really appreciate you coming on the show, sharing stories, and even talking a little inter-service trash with me today.
Exactly. What you have to do. That's what you have to do. So, thank you so much. This has been great. I've really enjoyed it. It went fast, so that's good.
That's all for this episode of Titan Evolution Podcast. We hope this no-holds-barred conversation opened your eyes on what it takes to live a genuinely happy life according to your own terms. Now that you've treated yourself to such a refreshing discussion, you cannot listen to nonsense content anymore. Be sure not to miss an episode by subscribing to the show at TitanEvolutionPodcast.com. Don't forget to share the word so more people can be enlightened, informed, and entertained. Thank you for listening.